Okay, there's some breaking news out about a Supreme Court case that has a lot of people on the left in a tailspin because of the way it's being characterized in the media, with headlines saying that they're making it easier to file reverse discrimination suits in the future. But I'm going to ask you to pump the brakes, and I'm going to tell you why. So the case is called Ames versus the Ohio Department of Youth Services, and in the case, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in favor of Ames. Now, I look closely at every 9-0 ruling with this divided Supreme Court because it means that they are prioritizing the rule of law over their own personal beliefs. And because of how divided the Supreme Court is, it usually means it's a very technical ruling, not one that has to do with deeply held values. So in this case, Ames is a heterosexual white woman who worked at the Ohio Department of Youth Services. She was in a management position and she applied for a promotion, but she missed out on the promotion and instead they hired a person who was homosexual. That person also had less experience in their career and they didn't have a degree, unlike Ames. Now, everything else aside, if you're going to hire somebody with less experience and less education for a promotion, you should have a very defensible reason. On top of that, Ames was then demoted from her management position to a secretarial position and given a huge pay cut in the process. They then replaced her management position with another person who also happened to be homosexual. So Ames saw what she thought was a pattern, and so she sued for discrimination. The lower courts rejected her suit because the lower courts argued that as a member of a majority class, in this case being heterosexual, she had to clear a higher bar in order to prove discrimination. Personally, I agree with this, but like I mentioned, this was a technical ruling because the Title VII federal law that governs discrimination in this sense specifically does not say that members of a majority group have to clear a higher bar. So however you feel about Ames and however you feel about the situation, they were interpreting the law. Now, obviously, there are lots of reasons Ames could have been passed over and demoted. She could be impossible to work with. She could be passive-aggressive, cruel, and difficult. But if any of those things had been the case, they should have demoted or terminated her employment for those reasons and documented them carefully. But they didn't, and instead they left the Supreme Court with a very clear, very technical ruling that should be uncontroversial.